The Dwarfs are one of the most complete factions in the game, with solid racial mechanics and even distinct playstyles for each of their legendary lords. But in a faction so good, it does beg the question, who's the best? Well, let's find out and rank each Dwarf legendary lord from worst to best. But if you want the best way to avoid ads on these videos, then become a channel member for just $1 a month. All the same videos, just none of the ads. Now, onto the ranking. In last place, I have Belegar Ironhammer. His mechanics are a little bit all over the place and everything revolves around Karak 8 peaks. Until it's captured, he's looking at a huge increased all upkeep, and in a faction as expensive as the Dwarfs, that adds up quick. To help with this, he has his ethereal ancestral heroes, gains bonus leadership for all armies laying siege, and allows vanguard deployments during underways battles. Finally, once he does take 8 peaks, he gets a few unique buildings alongside his functional economy. It's not bad, but it is brutally punishing until he manages to take 8 peaks, and it's no mean feat with the sheer number of baddies between him and it. On top of that, none of the positive parts are really all that powerful. The heroes are the best bit, and even they fall to pieces if you come up against magic. His starting location doesn't help things, with him being all the way over near Skavenblight. The trip to Karak 8 Peaks is a long and treacherous one, full of powerful potential enemies, and it makes getting there into a truly challenging pilgrimage. It also means if you do manage to take it, depending on your route and methods, you'll have a long strip of territory which can make it very difficult to defend. Either way, once you have it, it's the standard Old World's mountain affair, comprised of a shitload of likely antagonists. His army effects continue to bring all the heat of an energy-efficient light bulb. Missile block chance is nice and all, but that's all you get. Technically, you have more leadership when battling against their ancestral foes, but that's not every single battle, so it's hardly to be relied upon. His unique skills bring a few bonuses to the campaign, as well as some buffs for the cheap units in the faction. The unit buffs allow him to get away with using cheap units, but it hardly makes them able to be the forces he'll face once he reaches his destination. In combat, he himself is a bit of a basic frontlines lord. Not a lot of damage, but absurdly tanky, so does well as a frontlines bulwark to keep your melee infantry feeling supported. He has a couple of abilities to buff him and nearby allies, but even so, his impact in battles is very close to zero once you reach the late game. The main thing dragging Belegar down is the fact that the mission to take Karak 8 Peaks has never been harder. Okay, when the DLC launched in Warhammer 1, it may have been harder when the Dwarves were much worse, but that doesn't let me use fun hyperbole. Essentially, there are 3 factions all headed towards the same settlement, and Belegar starts the furthest away of them all and suffers the worst penalties. Adding extra upkeep to a faction like the Dwarves is brutal and means you can just about field a single, fairly weak army to take over there and attempt to take out a heavily fortified settlement whilst rats and greenskins race you to it. The ancestral heroes are cool and all, but everyone and their squig has magical damage these days, so they're very situational. Add on top of that the fact that Belegar is just a basic frontlines lord with no massive power to carry his weak army to victory, and it's a wee bit of a struggle fest. Coming in 5th place, we have Ungrim Iron Fist. I really think how good you think Ungrim is really comes down to how much you commit to the bit of Slayer spam. It's what his entire faction is shaped around, with reduced cost for recruitment and the buildings required to recruit them. The additional speed for all units is a nice touch, both to make Slayers even quicker, but also to help non-Slayer units keep up. His starting location up in the north of the Old World Mountains could be a lot worse. Once the starting war is taken care of, it's either north for orcs or south for more orcs, Skaven, and more. You also have the added risk of the Chaos Dwarves being just a short hike to the east, and if they come knocking and catch you out, it can really throw a spanner in the works of your campaign. His army effects are more of what you'd expect. Reducing upkeep for Slayers, increasing their attack, and keeping all entities battling for a little longer are great for enhancing what you should already be focusing on. Like I said, if you really commit to the bit, you'll get a lot more out of the faction, and that applies doubly so for his own army. To no one's surprise, the skills are more Slayers. Both buffs for them and buffs for himself, so commit to the bit and you'll be the shit. Do it half-assed and you'll be buried under the grass. I don't know why I added this bit. Please, just move on. In battle, he's a Slayer King, so of course he's an absolute terror. Good speed, extremely high damage, and even does a half-decent job of keeping himself alive despite the apparent death wish. His abilities further emphasize his frontline's power, making the full package a devastating melee fighter. I was tossing and turning between Ungrim and the next lord, but in the end, it really came down to how well Ungrim will perform for your average player. The Slayer focus can be strong if you really know what you are doing and min-max the shit out your campaigns, but on average, most people won't want to do that, in which case they will take heavy casualties every battle, resulting in slow movement, lots of recruiting, and a struggle fest for the entire campaign. The man himself is a crazy battler and can rack up insane damage, but it's not enough to carry the faction. Coming in 4th place, we have Thorgrim Grudgebearer. Whilst Thorgrim's faction mechanics may be a little boring to look at, they fit his character perfectly and give him a unique feel from all the other lords. As the High King, he naturally wants to make use of all those elite units that are normally overlooked for Ironbreakers. As well as that, the improved relations with other dwarves, extra decrees and buff commandments give him the best economy of the lot. This often allows him to confederate all other nearby dwarfs to completely take over the old world mountains. However, if you're worrying this makes him too easy and boring to play, then clearly you have not played around the region recently. He starts pretty much in the centre of the Old World Mountains with easy access to the top of the Badlands. These days, it's absolute bedlam on his doorstep, with Skarsnik a short hike to the north, Gorbad to the south along with Queek, Wurzag and eventually Skarbrand and much more. It'll be no cakewalk to take over the mountain range, so don't worry about it being too easy. Still, out of everyone in the region, I gave him the best chances at success, at least when he's being controlled by the player. AI dwarves tend to do pretty poorly. In battle, his lord effects are pretty ass, I can't deny. The extra buffs for hammers are okay and make them into real royal protectors, but leadership aura size, do I even have to say it? The stat has been memed to hell and back, so I'll just say it doesn't really have a lot of impact, leaving him feeling a little bit generic. His unique skill line is mostly buffs for the faction with a couple of niche picks for his army. Nothing is bad, but they're hardly game changers on the battle side of things. In battle, he's just okay. As far as actual battle prowess goes, he's an old dude being carried around like the Pope, so he does about as well as you'd expect, which means he's pretty tanky and can hold his own, but will hardly carry your battles. His abilities are focused on improving nearby units, so he works pretty well as a powerful support lord. It just means he ends up standing there looking cool instead of partaking in any actual combat. As I said, it was close between Ungrim and Thorgrim, but the High King edges out the Slayer just this once. It all really came down to just how easy he and the faction are to use. The improved diplomacy lets him easily ally or confederate nearby dwarves, resulting in easy expansion and plenty of resources. He can also trade with a bunch of order factions very easily, so another economical dub. The starting location is quite a challenge, but if you keep hammering away, literally, he can hold his ground no problem. It's nowhere near as easy as it was way back in the day, but it's still one of the best beginner campaigns if you're looking for a bit more heat and a change of scenery from Ulthuan. Coming in 3rd place, we have Grombrindle the White Dwarf. The main attraction when playing Grombrindle is his power of the Ancestor Gods. All it really boils down to is one of 4 sets of effects every few turns, and whilst it can come in very useful, it's nothing that really changes how the game is played, so ends up being powerful but a little bit forgettable. Aside from that, the bonus weapon strength versus elves for all units is super useful given his starting location, and allows him to run melee focused armies a lot easier as long as he's battling elves. Lastly, extra evasion when tunneling is great, but honestly, if you are tunneling that close to enemies anyway, you're already playing with fire. As I said, his starting location is close to elves of a whole bunch of flavors. The Dark Elves are right on your doorstep with Malekith only a province away, alongside basically all the others in a few turns march of each other. You also have the Chaos to the north with no shortage of meanies coming down to take on the White Dwarf, and if you really want to quite literally push the boat out, you can even head over to Ulthuan if you want to continue to make the most of that weapon bonus. As for his army, the bonus reinforcement range is just whatever. I guess it can come in useful, but how many times are you able to move 2 armies to that precise distance but no closer in the campaign? The extra leadership for the army and defense for ranged units is good, but nothing all that impactful. Ranged units should avoid melee at all times anyway, and the dwarves hardly struggle with leadership as it is. He has a range of unique skills that buff lots of areas of the faction alongside his own army. There's too many to list, but in general they make his faction more ready than ever to clear some major grudges. In combat, he is one of the best melee fighters in the game with a truly staggering stat card. He can deal a ridiculous amount of damage in a very short space of time and keep himself alive against almost all odds. His abilities empower himself and allies and slow nearby enemies to allow him to pin them down a lot faster. It feels wrong to put Grombrindle above Thorgrim since the two used to share a bunk at Karazakarak, but these days I really do believe even in his isolation, the White Dwarf is simply better. As I mentioned, the starting location is pretty far from home, and he's got no friends and no shortage of enemies, so it can be a little bit stressful, but aside from that, he has a lot going for him. The power of the Ancestor Gods is a basic mechanic, but if you focus on the military options, it makes him or his armies incredible value for money right out the gate. The bonus damage versus elves also really allows him to pile it on against the toughest foes in the neighborhood. Finally, Grom himself is a ridiculously good battler, so can carry a lot of early and even later battles completely by himself. He's not climbing higher since he really is super isolated, and late in the campaign it does start to bite him in the ass, but right out the gate, he is one of the best. In second place, we have Thorek Ironbrow. Thorek's mechanics are extremely focused on 2 things, the Forge and Runesmiths. Extra Oath Gold and cheaper runes is fine by me since that stuff feels like it takes forever to earn. Extra rank and less upkeep for Runesmiths is cool, I guess. Getting their spells faster and saving money are both neat, but that is kind of it. He also does have the legendary items to find, which is pretty neat and offers some powerful bonuses, but without those, he doesn't bring much to the faction. His starting location in the southern Old World Mountains is a little isolated from any major allies. He has very few friends, so has to be ready for wars on all fronts. The relic hunt will take him all over the map, but primarily north, where you'll find that same Badlands Old World Mountains brawl we've talked about a bunch already. There is the odd item over to the west in the mountains, so you'll be all over the map if you want to collect them all. His own army gains bonuses to armor, armor piercing damage, and reload speed, which are all great. It's small stat changes, but on every single unit, it adds up to quite a lot of bonus stats. It also allows you to build any army you want, and whilst he may not have an army gimmick, he'll empower whatever direction you choose to go. His skills keep up the focus set by his faction effects, improvements to his own runes and any runesmiths in the army, bonuses for oath gold and construction locally, and of course the odd buff for a seemingly random assortment of ranged units. In combat, he's a really fantastic army leader and battler. He has great melee stats and damage, meaning he can dish out some good punishments and keep himself alive just as well. On top of that, he has the runic magic, so can be thrown out support, damage, and debuffs whenever needed. And once he's on the Anvil of Doom, he can massively buff melee damage output and deal out a bit of area damage whilst he's at it. Really, one of the best all-round lords that you will find. Thoric reads like he should be near the bottom of the list since he really doesn't bring that much to the faction on paper. However, if you crumple that paper into a ball, toss it over your shoulder, and actually play, he slaps so hard it's not even funny. The main attraction here is freedom. His army effects let you build whatever you want and it will all perform well. The increased oath gold lets him forge a ton of items and runes to deck out his lords and heroes in record time. All his relics all over the map give him a bunch of choices for what direction to travel and what rewards to pick up first. And the guy himself is also a damn good fighter and caster. He may not look the most exciting, but if you play him, he's extremely powerful and a ton of fun. In first place is of course Malachi Mackayson. Right off the bat, he scores major points for all his unique mechanics. Malachi's Adventures is one of the best mechanics they have ever added to a faction, and I will gladly die on that hill. The variety of enemies it sends you against with a wide array of objectives to complete, all in exchange for actually meaningful and game-changing rewards. Oh my god, is this the creative assembly that I know? That is something that we basically never see anywhere else. I won't go into too much detail because this isn't the point of the video, but all you need to know is it takes some of the most fun units in the roster in their artillery and war machines and makes them even better and more fun to use. He also pays less upkeep and gains recruit rank for those same units, so that's pretty rad. And if all that wasn't enough, he also starts the game with Gotrek and Felix, giving him a very powerful hero stack right out the gate. His starting location is way up in the northeastern coast of Norska, giving him no shortage of enemies. Norska is all you run into in the west, along with a good spread of Warriors of Chaos in basically all directions. Rats to the south and Chaos Dwarfs way over in the southeast to round it out. For any other faction, it would be a damn hard start, but for Malachi, it's more fire to fuel his radiance. His army has access to the Spirit of Grungy airship, allowing Malachi to build up his own horde and recruit the full roster for his and other nearby armies. Another great mechanic that pairs perfectly with the first one, as it allows him to stay stocked on units wherever he goes. All those same units from before also gain bonus missile strength, making them somehow even more powerful. His unique skill line is also full of bangers. We got bonuses for slayers, artillery and war machines, and even some left over for the rest of the faction. Everything is on focus and very powerful, so no complaints. And in battle, Malachi is a very powerful hybrid weapons lord. As a slayer, his army literally does not exist, but even so, he can do some decent non-armor piercing damage and keep himself relatively safe. However, from a range, he really comes into his own with great range and very powerful damage that can rip targets apart in moments. And if that wasn't enough, he also brings some great bonuses for nearby ranged units, making the powerhouse section of the roster. I don't really think I need to justify this one, do I? One of the most recent characters to be added from the best DLC in the history of the game, in my opinion, and one of the most bloated campaigns in the best possible way. The adventures are peak gameplay fun and give you some of the peak units in the game. The airship horde is also the peak horde in the entire game. The starting location for anyone else would be a challenge, but for this guy, it's just a light warm-up. Starts with Gotrek and Felix, and of course the main man himself, all three of which slap so hard it actually hurts a little bit to play. Goated faction, one of the strongest of all time, and if you ask me, absolutely both the most fun and the most powerful Dwarf Lord by far. But what I want to know is, who do you think is the best Dwarf Lord? Let me know in the comments below, like, subscribe, and if you want more Warhammer 3 Lord rankings, then check out this one all about the Dark Elves.